Philadelphia. I got to tell you, I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning, and all this incredible positivity that I've been getting here, I feel like $1 million, and it's incredibly warm welcome that I've received. It really means everything to me. So thank you for this incredibly warm welcome. Thank you for coming out on a chilly Wednesday evening to see my event. And thank you for not picking Joe Biden over me, although you may be on your way later. I didn't want to compete with the vice president. At any rate, I have an announcement to make. 2 people that just came to my event. In addition to being a progressive mayor from Western PA, apparently I'm also a hell of a matchmaker. This couple over there, Betsy and Andrew over there, they went independently to my first ever campaign event in Philadelphia. At a dive bar, and they met, fell in love, and got married. Bringing people together. And in the ultimate Philly twist, their last names are Betsy and Ross. You can't make this up, folks. We have the documentation of it. Thank you guys for sharing your incredible story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I have another blast from the past with this, my friend right here, wearing some Fetterman swag from the last week. Would you like to say what that says, sir?
I believe it says Trump is a jagoff.
That was a tongue-in-cheek effort that we rolled out in January of 2015, December of 2015, before we finally realized that we
Nobody else knew what it meant.
Yeah, no one else. We had a definition linked to Wikipedia for our friends out east, but it's a good-natured kind of nickname for folks out west here. So anyway, thank you for coming out. It's really a pleasure to be here. And you know, small town mayor, I pride myself on my progressive values, and you know, I have what I hope is a relatively interesting story. I grew up in York, Pennsylvania. Anyone familiar with York, Pennsylvania? Yeah. York? Is York a progressive hotbed? Liberal idea? No, it's very, very red. And I was the only Democrat in my family. Excuse me, there aren't any Democrats in my family. And conservative grandparents, conservative parents, the whole 9 yards. I grew up in a stable, loving 2-parent household. Never had to want for anything, you know, food, clothing. Read to at night. Education was a foregone conclusion. Went to college, went to business school, and looking back in my life, I never fully realized just how good I had it. And all that changed in April of 1993 when my best friend, on his way to come pick me up, was killed in a car accident. I'd never been close to somebody who died like that, and I wanted something to come from this horrible tragedy. I started to look at the world differently. So I joined Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And I was paired with a little boy, 8 years old, and that little boy had just lost his father to AIDS, and his mother was in the final stages of dying from AIDS when I met them. I'm embarrassed to admit it now, but when the mother went to shake my hand, she was bedridden, I questioned whether or not I should shake the hand. Embarrassed to say that. But I had never seen anything like that. I'd never seen a skeleton with skin. I've never seen someone ravaged. And I was blown away. I was just devastated by this idea that this little boy, before his 9th birthday, would be an AIDS orphan, growing up 6 blocks away from one of the world's most elite universities. And how come this little boy lost so much, and I had been given so much, simply because of the random lottery of my birth? You know, I couldn't explain it. So I quit my job, and I moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's how I ended up in Western PA. And I joined AmeriCorps for 2 years. Anyone heard of AmeriCorps? Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic program. And I taught GED classes in the Hill District, which is a very historic, significant African-American community in Pittsburgh. And once again, I was blown away by the inequality. You had students coming in reading at the 4th, 5th grade level, and I thought, you know, how can this be? And it wasn't their fault. They weren't born into the kind of relative ease like I had been. And, you know, how can we as a society function like this? And again, was honored to work with them. Did that for 2 years, left for the Kennedy School at Harvard to get a public policy degree in the hopes that I could kind of combine business, public policy, economics, and social work into something that I would hope could be meaningful to society in some way, shape, or form, to kind of push back and do my own little bit to reduce inequality in this country. So after my time at the Kennedy School, I was offered the chance to move to a place called Braddock, Pennsylvania. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Braddock, I just met someone that grew up in the region. Is he still here? Yeah. What was Braddock's reputation?
It was terrible.
Terrible. Yeah. Don't sugarcoat it. Okay? Yeah. No, I mean, it was literally the place that you didn't want to go. It was a place you didn't want to drive through. In some cases, his reputation was deserved. And I showed up there in 2001, and I opened a program to help young people reintegrate into society, help them get their GEDs, help them get jobs, help them get kind of back on their feet. Once again, not through any fault of their own, they just drew an unlucky number in that random lottery. And that program would go on to be very successful, the most successful program of its kind. And I was rolling. I felt really good. I mean, this is what I was meant to do, I thought. But then 2 of my students were killed by gunfire in a couple weeks apart, and I was again hit with this horrible reality. Like, I didn't hear gunshots at night where I grew up. Like I never had to worry about getting shot when I walked home. And I decided I couldn't do anything about it in my current role, so I ran for mayor of that community. And that was a remarkable jump for somebody that looks like me. I joked that I wouldn't open the door if I knocked on it. Where I'm walking, women clutch their purses, children kind of step aside. But the reason why people did open their doors is because the young people that I had a chance to serve and work with ended up going around and campaigning with me. They were my validators. They said, look, this guy, he may not have lived in our community more than a couple of years, but he helped me get my GED, helped me get a job, or get my life on track. And I was proud to say that one of those young men introduced me at my campaign launch event yesterday in Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Nice.
And I won that first election by one single solitary vote. So anyone that says your vote doesn't matter, I wouldn't have the privilege of standing in front of you tonight had I not voted for myself in that way. and every young person that did too. So, and I had been subsequently reelected by overwhelming margins, and I was honored to just be reelected to a 4th term this past, I guess it was last week actually. So after all these, for 12 years in Braddock, I have fought and taken on and been proud to lead and serve an overwhelmingly African-American community in Western Pennsylvania. And we've championed progressive policies, we've championed progressive ideas, and have made a lot of headway in helping bring this town that was once written off as a dangerous, or why would you bother, why do you care? And we turned it around to a point where now people can start to see some promise and some daylight. But once again, I kind of hit a wall where I'm like, I want to do more. I want to get a bigger platform here. I want to expand what I think is important. So, as many of you know, I decided to run for the United States Senate in the 2016 cycle. Had a really great run. I was the only candidate to endorse Bernie Sanders during the presidential primary. Fetterman would have won.
Hell yeah!
But I was also a very proud and full-throated campaign surrogate for Hillary Clinton in Western Pennsylvania too. And I'm sure everyone in this room shares my devastation that Donald Trump is president and we came up short by 44,000 votes. And you want to know how Donald Trump did it? He did it by coming to Western Pennsylvania. I'll never forget it. It was June 2016. He had a campaign event in Monessen, Pennsylvania, which is a small, down-on-its-luck steel town just like Braddock. And he had a major campaign event there, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Why would Donald Trump be in a town like Monessen? Either he's just lost his mind, gone scattershot, or he knows something that we don't. And it turns out it was the latter was true. And he made an appeal to people who rightfully had given up hope. He made an appeal to folks that rightfully have seen their way of life, their communities just get destroyed by globalization, deindustrialization, the opioid crisis, all of these different things. And some people rolled the dice and took a chance on a charlatan and a man that had never once cared about places and people like this, and enough people believed him, and that's how he squeaked by 44,000 votes. You know, heartbreaking. Went back to Braddock, carried on for this year, and I decided once again I need to get back into this. I need to get that bigger platform. I need to champion all these important progressive ideas, the opioid crisis, a living wage, labor's right to organize, women's right to choose. Legal marijuana. I was the only candidate that was for full marijuana legalization in the 2016 cycle as well, too. Mass incarceration, effective community policing standards like we perfected in Braddock. All these core progressive issues is the reason why I decided to join this race for lieutenant governor. Now, the lieutenant governor also has a special responsibility to support and defend the current governor. Because I got to tell you, if Governor Wolf doesn't win another term, what happens in Pennsylvania? I wouldn't say it in the PG-13 way, but yeah, that's kind of true. Because whether it's crazy Scott Wagner or Paul Mango or whoever,
Turzai just announced.
Yeah, Turzai, I know. So they're going to run the tables. You know, there's a desk drawer full of all this crazy, rotten legislation that they're just dying to implement with a super majority House and Senate. And we in this room are what stands between them and that agenda in this Pennsylvania 2018 election. And we have to do everything we can. I'm committed to doing everything we can as well, too. And finally, one of the things that I've been a champion of long serving, as again, one who endorsed Bernie during the Senate race. My wife was a proud Bernie delegate during the convention in your beautiful city. But one of the things we took as our solemn task was to bring the Democratic Party together in our own little way. You know, who has Bernie and Hillary followers on Twitter? You know, my Twitter feed, half and half, and the stuff they say to each other, you shouldn't say to anybody, let alone a fellow Democrat or progressive, you know? You know, it's like Hillbot, Bernie bro, and then the F's fly and the snark flies and all this stuff, and it's like, save it for Donald Trump, guys, you know? And it's like, you know, we have to come together as a party, because I got to tell you, the only way Donald Trump has a chance in 2020 is if we are divided and we decide, well, if it's not my person, the whole thing's corrupt, I'm out, you know? And they're counting on that, and you can bet they're going to do whatever they can to foment that. And, you know, whether it's popular or not, I am going to constantly say, look, you know, I've been on both sides of the coin, and I guarantee you, the best side of the coin overall is always going to be ours, and that's the Democratic side. Okay? I was talking to a group of folks here, and I just want to say also just how devastating the opioid crisis is. I don't have to perhaps tell you that in Philadelphia, but in my part of the state, my wife and I have hosted Narcan trainings at our home. You know, we just had a major, I forget the exact technical term, but an actual police bust involving our community that involved elephant tranquilizer. You know, I was just showing some folks how much little fentanyl it takes to be fatal. It's a fractional size of a penny. You know, and this is like dumping a bucket of gasoline and accelerant on an already burning fire of socioeconomic decline that we see in far too many communities across Pennsylvania. So, and that is what I am about, is being a champion for these kind of places, these kind of communities, and they always have mattered, and it's about time that they matter more and they get the kind of resources and investment that they deserve. I've dedicated my professional life to that, and that's what this campaign is about as its core. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out on this night to give me such a warm welcome. And you know, please get a T-shirt, please get a sign, please continue, please consider, in other words, supporting you know, this campaign financially. You know, nobody likes to ask for money. It's not dignified necessarily, but this race is about dignity. Dignity for places like my community, places for all across Pennsylvania that deserve to be invested in, deserve not to be overlooked, and deserve people to be wrested away from somebody like Donald Trump, who sold some desperate people a bill of goods. So thank you so much for coming out. It's a true honor to be here, and I can't thank everybody enough. Thank you.
Yeah! Woo!